Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dill, it is officially game week, and it's a week that a lot of us Michigan fans have been waiting for a very long time. I was actually thinking about it as I was prepping this one out. Dill, in my lifetime, I cannot remember a more anticipated freshman debut than what we're about to see Saturday night in Ann Arbor. Bryce Underwood taking over this Michigan offense, ushering in a new era of Michigan football with Bryce Underwood at the helm. Look, is Michigan almost a 40-point favorite in this football game? Yup. Are we still going to break down what we want to see? Yeah, absolutely. Because Dill, as a Michigan fan, if you're a Michigan fan that follows this program pretty dang closely, there are a lot of storylines at play heading into this one. Want to talk about what we want to see from Bryce, what we want to see from a couple of these players on this roster before we get into it. As always, the Michigan fans, appreciate you guys. And look, man, many of y'all have been rocking with the boys for a very long time. Many of y'all have been rocking with the boys in the dead of summer. We can't thank you guys enough. Been a blast talking this team. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I will give you the T-box here. I mean, we got to start with what we want to see from Bryce Underwood Saturday night.
I think it really starts for me to see if he's identified his guy in this offense.
Yeah,
who's he going to in those big spots? Because that's the one thing when Colson Loveland went to the draft, that kind of guy for the last, frankly, 2 years kind of went away. And I think last year you didn't necessarily have anybody emerge behind Colson Loveland, but I still think you got to find that guy. You got to
100%, especially as you're going into week 2. You go to Norman, Oklahoma. You want to know who your difference makers are going into that matchup. And Dill, the only time we've gotten exposure to Bryce Underwood at the college landscape was in the spring game. He very clearly had his guys. It was Channing Goodwin. It was Jalen Hoffman. Who are going to be his guys Saturday night against New Mexico? Certainly a question. I'll flip it right on you. Who do you think is the guy for Bryce Underwood Saturday night here?
I think it's going to be Samaje Morgan. I think he's going to wake people back up. And I kind of suspect Donovan McCulley is going to be the leader in receiving yards this year in aggregate. But I think he's going to generate a lot of his stuff down the field. Not necessarily those 3rd and 5 kind of routes, if you will. I think Samaje Morgan, when he gets a chance to have a little bit more space and hopefully what's a more developed and advanced offense, I think he's going to remind people how good he was as a freshman. Because they
go back to Samaje Morgan as a freshman, man. I mean, that was a Michigan offense that had, Blake Corum in the backfield, Donnie Edwards in the backfield, Colson Loveland at tight end, Roman Wilson, Cornelius Johnson. There were big moments for Michigan on offense in 2023 when Sherrone Moore was our offensive coordinator, where they were scheming up touches for a true freshman named Samaje Morgan. We know this kid can play. We know this coaching staff likes Samaje Morgan a lot. And like you said, in this Chip Lindsey offense that's able to manufacture a little bit more space, I'll look at Samaje Morgan and say, could be a real answer for Michigan in the passing attack. Dill, especially as you look to break Bryce Underwood in. Well, let's just not be ignorant about it. There are some very, very high expectations for this kid. How do you get him some easy throws? Samaje Morgan could be that guy. Here's the other guy, Dill, Marlon Klein. There was a lot of buzz around this kid 12 months ago. That buzz is continuing in this year's fall camp. We just didn't get to see it because one, you had Colson Loveland, two, we couldn't really throw a downfield pass last year. What's Marlon Klein? Can he be a difference maker at tight end? We know he's a dog in the run blocking department. Can you be a guy we can build our passing attack around? That is probably the number one player I'm most excited to watch outside of Bryce Underwood on offense. Dill, here's what I'm looking for. And look, I've already prepared myself because I know the broadcast going to be talking about it. Know the national media going to be talking about it. Like that lip service take of, hey, I want to see the freshman quarterback take care of the football, take what's there, run the offense. Yes, I do want to see Bryce Underwood do all of those things. Dill, I want to see him be a difference maker. One of the biggest problems, we had a laundry list of problems on offense last year. I don't got to tell you all of that. One of the biggest problems that I felt like was there is we didn't have a quarterback that could make things happen when it wasn't perfect. That was one of the things I loved about J.J. McCarthy. Probably the most underrated part about his game. Look, when the throws were there and J.J. had clean protection, very rarely missed throws. What really elevated Michigan to that national championship was his ability to make things happen when it wasn't perfect. I look at Bryce and say, look, he's got a juiced up arm. We all know that. You don't get 5 stars next to your name coming out of high school unless you do. He's a really good athlete. And when things aren't perfect, does Bryce Underwood have that innate playmaking ability to get outside the pocket, whether it's moving the chains with his legs or throwing off platform? Having a quarterback that can create and be a playmaker in this offense feels very, very important to Michigan in 2025.
Especially because you can just be honest with yourselves as Michigan, or we can be honest with ourselves as Michigan fans that it's not the greatest wide receiver room in the
Yeah,
history of the
I
world.
think it's fair.
And with that said, if you want to be a really good team, like a national championship competing team, which again, Michigan kind of has parts of this team that are very
I've sold myself. I've sold myself on the avenue of Michigan becoming national championship caliber.
See,
Already
when you
done.
play defense the way I think Michigan can play defense, you can do it. But with that, you'll probably need your quarterback to be an elevator. Like he
Sure.
can't be a game manager. Like there's like LSU, for example, doesn't necessarily need their quarterback to play hero ball ever.
Yeah.
I don't know that Michigan's got LSU weapons right
Yeah.
now. And the other part of that, frankly, is can Bryce Underwood playing that type of level attract more of those weapons? And like maybe for the future, that's probably what you need too. So I think that's like a twofold, not only for this year, but if Michigan's going to transform this program in the way Sherrone Moore is kind of like at least
Yeah.
directionally sort of put it
And
on.
I want to be also clear, Dill. Like, it's not that I want to see Bryce Underwood be putting the ball in harm's way and doing some crazy stuff either. Like, I do want to see him play within the offense, and I think that has a lot to do with Chip Lindsey. Hey, give him some easy stuff, give him some easy reads, let the ball get out of his hands quickly. But when it is time to be that difference maker, can Bryce Underwood provide Michigan those plays? Because again, I'm looking at that week 2 matchup against Oklahoma. It ain't going to be perfect. Like Michigan ain't just going to be able to go on the road to Norman and run the football the way they want, and probably the way they can against New Mexico. When it's not perfect, you have the ability to be that elevator. Offensive line, I think, is another storyline here too. I mean, what should have been like the biggest alert for us Michigan fans 12 months ago was when we hopped on to recap that Fresno State game. Yes, we struggled to throw the football, but was equally as like kind of concerning, you might say. Like Michigan couldn't really run the football against Fresno State either. I want to see number one, this offensive line impose their will a little bit. But Dale, I want to see the operation a little bit cleaner. Like I want to see us pick up the blitzes and the stunts that we know we can do. I want to see us work to the second level with a little bit better timing. It was so clunky, especially early. Can this Michigan offensive line, with all the continuity that they have, like they ain't no transfer portal guys. These are guys that have been within the program. Can we be a little bit more of a solid unit up front and play clean football? That's another thing I want to see Saturday night too.
Yeah, because like that'll, I think we probably could have had a pretty good sense that we weren't going to run the ball at a particularly high level if you weren't dominating a team like Fresno State. Like,
agreed.
I probably do want to see some dominance. Like I want to see El Hadi be at the point where he is running guys off the ball, and when he gets a chance to work on somebody, he's moving them. I want to see that from Afobe and Crippen and Sprague. Like those guys need to be able to assert themselves in a physically dominant manner against a team like New Mexico.
What about Jalen Hoffman, Dell? What do you think we've spent so much time, me and you, talking about this. Like, we saw Peyton O'Leary a couple of years ago flash in the spring game, and we were trying to determine, was that just spring game performance or was he going to be a factor? And then that was more of a spring game performance. Jalen Hoffman, I'm kind of buying stock into because a really, really clean route runner, knows how to catch in traffic, kind of plays the same position as Max Bredesen does, but I think offers a lot more pass catching juice than Max Bredesen does. I'm very excited to see what the role is for Jalen Hoffman in this offense, especially because, look, Bryce loved him, man, in the spring game. We were peppering him with targets. What do you expect to see from Jalen Hoffman here?
I think you'd like to see him mix in more in that H-back role, mainly because Max Bredesen probably should have been a bit more of a situational player than he was last year, because Max Bredesen just probably doesn't give you enough of what you need in the passing attack. And that's not to say like having an elite run blocking H-back is an important role for a Michigan team that's still going to want to run the ball. But his snaps should probably be truncated a little bit in favor of some more guys with ability to catch. And it was probably twofold. Not only could Michigan not throw, but like what receiver were you exactly begging to get on the field? There was some other issues involved. But yeah, I think a role for a more of a pass catching H-back is probably something in the cards for
Yeah,
Michigan.
we'll see. And I'm excited to see the personnel usage. Like, what's the rotation look like in the running back room? How much 2 tight end sets do we see there? There is a lot of storylines that I have in my notepads that I'm excited to see. Now, this Michigan defense, I'm excited. I don't know if you'll necessarily quiet the doubters in this week 1 game against New Mexico. There's so much noise about Michigan's defense taking a significant step backwards, losing guys like Will Johnson, Mason Graham, and Kenneth Grant. Let's start on the defensive line. Number one, what I'm most excited for is the rotation. Like, what does it look like? What's the pecking order for the defensive line? We've heard a lot about the depth and how much you're going to see guys rotate. Well, I still want to see some guys elevate. I still want to see guys take the step, say, hey, we're the difference maker. That's going to be hard to keep off the field. I'll give you the floor here. Call your shot. If there's a defensive lineman, you can't go with Derek Moore, TJ Guy. They've already broken out. That'd be cheating. Who are you looking for to put a stamp on what they're going to mean for Michigan in 2025?
I want to see Enoetta work his way into the top 4 in the rotation, and it mainly comes down to like Damon Payne and to an extent Trey Williams. So Trey Williams might have a little bit more upside than Damon Payne.
Mm-hmm.
Damon Payne certainly is what he is, like tough physical interior
Sure.
defensive lineman, doesn't really make a ton of plays, doesn't really get off blocks particularly well. Enoetta, to me, if he can emerge as a guy that they can trust to do the dirty work at a much higher level than we've seen him do it in the past, would be a very exciting development for this Michigan team because he really does elevate that floor, I'd say.
It's the
Or
David Ajabo.
elevate that ceiling.
It's the David Ajabo story. I know what you meant. It's the David Ajabo storyline. Like the David Ajabo it was radio silence for this kid the first 24 months he was on campus, and then he becomes an elite edge rusher, first round NFL draft pick. And I'm not necessarily saying that's what Enoetta is going to be, but it's important to mention. Didn't play a ton of football at the high school ranks, was dealing with COVID too, and then dealt with a position change. He's always been exceptionally gifted. Now that he has that body right to play on the inside of the defensive line in the Big Ten, is he ready to take that step and explode onto the scene? Certainly. I'll go with Cam Brandale. The buzz is loud. And him and Dom Nichols really are the 2 guys that I'm looking for and saying, I know what I have with TJ Guy and Derek Moore. They're going to play a lot, but when they're off the football field, what does the production look like coming from the edge room? If the fall camp buzz is real, ideally there's not a huge drop off when Derek Moore and TJ Guy are off and Cam Brand and Dominic Nichols are.
Because I'm all aboard the Cam Brand. I thought, like, the more I go back and watch him, the more I think I'm probably a little bit too low on his ability to rush the passer. Like, his run defense is really strong. He's big, physical defensive end who does a good job dealing with blocks. I think there's a little bit more in the pass rush department than I probably have given him credit for. So he is one. I think you'd almost like to see him emerge in the way like TJ Guy emerged last year, where like Derek Moore had emerged after the 2022 year, but TJ Guy was kind of that guy you heard a lot about and then really popped. Like Cam Brand, I'm kind of wondering if he can take that sort of similar.
He would essentially be doing the TJ Guy role too, like that third edge rusher who's coming on the field and getting it done. Can Cam Brand? And again, I don't mean to overlook Dominic Nichols. How much do you think we see little Nate Marshall? I hope we get him on the field a little bit, man.
I wouldn't mind seeing a couple plays.
I want to get a sense of what it looks like because this dude is a freak, man. And I know he wasn't here for the winter, and I know he wasn't here for the spring. In those, pass rush situations, can he? And maybe he's not ready right now, but can he be ready in October, November? Like I think he can provide some juice early, man. Linebacker position. I think you'll see a lot of rotation. Get Cole Sullivan on the field, get Jimmy Rolder on the field. What do we see from Jay Sean Barham? Like that's
we'll see like the full arsenal, if you will, from Jay Sean in this game. I don't think it'd make a ton of sense. Like, I don't know that we'll see anything wild. Oklahoma, I'd like to see.
But I want to see a little bit because I just want to see maybe that's just a little selfish. Maybe I
hold your cards to the vest a little. No, you don't need to be running Jay Sean Barham. Your stuff, if you will, with them.
Yeah, I agree, but I am excited. Like, we've heard so much buzz around, hey, we're going to use this kid in so many different ways. Like, I'm excited to see if they give us a little bit of a sneak peek in terms of – because, again, you talk about the ceiling of this Michigan defense. You talk about avenues in terms of how can Michigan hold serve and still be an elite defense without Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham. Jay Sean Barham taking that step and becoming a real game wrecker I ain't even going to call him an off-ball linebacker, like a front seven chess piece. That's big. How about on the back end? Jair Hill, we know, is our cornerback one. I'm just excited to see the rotation. Like, is Josiah Edmond going to be our cornerback opposite Jair Hill? Is Zeke Berry going to be playing nickel? How much does Shamari Earls play? I guess I'll kick it to you. Like, what's the storyline that it excites you the most heading into the secondary, heading into that game?
It's probably to see what they do with cornerback too, because that'll like kind of I feel like tell
It's the
me
domino
everything
effect.
else. Like
Yeah.
I feel like TJ Metcalf, I think, is locked up one of those starting safety spots. Jair Hill clearly cornerback one. If Josiah Edmonds cornerback two, then I think things get really interesting. I will say Mason Curtis is a guy I don't know that we've talked enough about in terms of what his role is going to be, because I feel like you're starting to hear some late fall camp buzz about him and his development. I'm kind of curious to see what they do with him, whether they kick him down to nickel at all or whether he plays pure safety, because he's kind of another interesting physical piece at least.
I'm guessing you'll see a lot of rotation. Like, let's get a bunch of them on the football field and just like figure out what the best recipe is, because you got a preseason game right here. You got to be your best version against Oklahoma. And so I'm guessing you'll see a lot of different names doing a lot of different things. Very, very exciting. And again, is this going to be the most exciting game? Ideally not from a scoreboard standpoint, but a lot of fun storylines to monitor. We will certainly be breaking this one down Saturday night. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.